everybody, Jimmy with the Triple C Collective, and
Collin here.
And we are ready to bring you commentary track for Ahsoka Episode 1. What is it?
Master and Apprentice.
First
we're going to talk, though, about Ray Stevenson and his passing. We have to start this episode just with a rest in peace. You really helped create a special character, and we all hope that you feel this love that all the fans have for you right now.
Because he, in this first episode, he gives, he's giving something special here. He's just giving an interesting performance, and
stellar, yeah.
He's definitely, for somebody, for far as I know, is pretty much made up for the show. I don't know if I don't really know if he's really mentioned in other canon. I know he's not in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
He's definitely not in Clone Wars, and he's definitely not in Rebels previously. Right. The previous Filoni stuff.
Yeah, we know nothing about this character.
Yeah, so he was really awesome in it, and it sucks that Ray Stevenson isn't able to see this accolades that he's kind of getting from it. Obviously, there's other things more important than that. But I wish he was here. Obviously, it was great. But he did a great performance. So we wanted to start out with that. But without further ado, man, let's go ahead and jump into this.
Sounds good.
Now, for this one, we're doing a little bit different format than what we usually do. So you know what?
We're gonna do a little summary and then talk about it.
Yeah.
Each scene, kind of go over. But anyway, so episode 1, Master and Apprentice, begins with the red opening scrawl, and it, to me, kind of indicated that this is going to be a darker show, even though it's kind of brighter in its aesthetics than even Mandalorian and stuff. I figured the tone by the end of it was going to be pretty dark. The music during this really resembles the old samurai movies, and so does the tone of the show really does.
Yeah.
It really starts off with
that opening title sequence, man, is just insane with it. But it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. So they pretty much explain where we're at in the timeline, which is basically between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. And the last time we saw Thrawn and Ezra was when the Empire was still in power, technically.
Yeah.
Since then, though, with the help of the Rebel Alliance and people like Ahsoka and the Ghost team basically helping out, Luke Skywalker was able to take down the Empire.
Yep.
Which since has been replaced by the New Republic. Kind of a bureaucratic mess.
Yes.
Like anything in a turnover period.
If you're up to date on the whole Star Wars universe here, then yes, you understand the New Republic is a mess right now.
Yeah. And you also understand by the time of
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens, it's pretty much over already.
Yeah.
With the First Order, which is another fascist dictatorship, basically. Anyway, the episode begins with this New Republic transport ship that we've definitely seen before, called the Home One, being approached by this old shuttle from the Clone Wars, which it uses Jedi codes to get clearance.
Yeah,
which is how. And then we meet this guy, Captain Hal, who's played by Mark Ralston.
Yeah.
And he kind of arrogantly clears this ship for landing without thinking about it. And he's just we're gonna call their bluff, whatever.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's so tough. He hands the command over to the first officer, Corbett, which is played by Shakira Barrera.
Yeah.
She was good, but it was basically just a bunch of bureaucratic people. And he's like, I'm gonna go meet him. So anyway, Baylan Skoll, who we kind of don't know his name at this point in the episode, but just for the sake of storytelling, I'm going to say it. Played by Ray Stevenson, who we talked about, and his apprentice Shin Hati, played by Ivana Sakno, land in the ship bay and encounter a group of Republic officers who are accompanied by Captain Hal.
Yeah. And
he again is clearly underestimating the two guys, the apprentice and the master, who just came into their ship bay. And Captain Hal, Captain Hal asks for identification. Shin begins attacking the officers with their orange lightsabers, we notice.
Yeah.
For the first time, we see them use their lightsabers, and they're a different color than anything we've ever seen before.
Right, because it's Sith straight up are always red.
Yep.
Ahsoka is virtually the only one we've seen in any way that has her white lightsabers.
She purified 2 lightsabers, which became white. Yep.
So she purified them, and then otherwise, we see, blue, green, and purple.
Right. I'd say the only place we'd seen the variations of lightsabers the most was at the video games with Cal Kestis, like Force Awakens and stuff. But again, that's you're customizing a lot, and there's no necessarily real meaning behind the colors in those games. But clearly, Dave Filoni has some kind of meaning towards that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Baylan is not taking Captain Hale's instructions well, so he clearly
not at all.
Captain Hale goes to grab his blaster and he uses the Force, just like Vader or something. You know what I mean? Like he really grabs his hand and twists it to get the gun out of it.
Yeah.
And then he confirms we are no Jedi. Before dealing the final blow.
God, that was such a terrifying line when he goes, "We are no Jedi." I was like, "Ooh,
it was awesome.
Oh man, what are you?"
Right, exactly.
And
that's when he kind of just goes on his killing spree. He goes, this awesome piano build up is playing in the background, and Baylan Skoll kind of looks like a knight when he's walking on the thing, like with his sword out like this for defensive posture, and the shots. Like he's blocking all these shots. He's like effortlessly slicing through the New Republic officers, and his lightsaber's kind of unusual. The hilt, at least, is unusually large, which makes it like longer. I feel like than most lightsabers, and in this sequence, it's super reminiscent of when Darth Vader's in the hallway in Rogue One, ripping through, and when Luke Skywalker is in the hallway during The Mandalorian Chapter 16, like season 2. The rescue. So yeah, it was really cool to see that. Anyway, eventually Baylan opens a cell.
And who is it, man?
It
somebody
is
we Morgan Elsbeth.
Elsbeth, who we thought was played by Morgan Elsbeth, who's played by Diana Lee Inosanto.
Yeah.
And she was defeated, we thought, by Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, which she was, and she was taken into custody by the New Republic.
Yeah.
And she's on this transport ship,
but we know the New Republic has a bad. Well, again, if you're up to date in this world that that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have been like crafting here with the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and stuff. If you're up to date on all that, you know that this New Republic has a hard time transferring
getting
prisoners.
their prisoners to get actual judgment in the court system that they supposedly have.
I mean,
and so we got Moff Gideon,
exactly.
And that was a major loss when that happened. So she's taken into custody, but by the time Baylan's there, we notice he's there to free her.
Yeah.
And she kind of silently communicates when she's got the thing on him, like, can you? You know what I mean?
Can you do something about this?
He uses the Force again, just like to unshackle her.
Yeah.
And
which was awesome. That was really sweet.
When when they're walking out of the cell, Morgan kind of updates Baylan about a Jedi named Ahsoka Tano, who is searching for the same map that they're looking for. That's gonna locate Thrawn. And Baylan kind of seemed intrigued by this more than he seemed like angry or anything.
For the first time in like seeing him, like aside from just kind of being like stone cold, like there was a peak of like interest, like true interest of this is information that I didn't like almost hearing Ahsoka's name is like it was like a Ben Kenobi like moment for a while
I thought Jedi were dead. I thought I was the only one.
I haven't heard that name. Like him, Ben Kenobi talking about himself of like I haven't heard that name for such a long time.
Yeah. It definitely felt like he knew her.
Yeah, right.
And with just facial expressions. Again, shout out to Ray Stevenson for that because he really intensified that moment for sure.
Right.
But during the scene, we had Captain Hale, who was played by Mark Ralston, we said, and this
is a new section, by the way, of our opinion and factoid section.
Yeah, we're just gonna go over what we talked about right there.
So, Captain Hale.
He was played by Mark Ralston, who's known for his role as Private Drake in Aliens. So he plays a douchebag a lot.
Yeah. But all I can say about Captain Hale is what an idiot.
Yeah. He was just like from the get-go, like just somebody who like was who thought he was smarter than he actually is. And then we have in the background that Black C-3PO who's like a navigator droid.
Yeah,
and it's pretty cool. But she was voiced by Bonnie Wild, who she's won a bunch of Emmys for like sound mixing for Star Wars shows like Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Mandalorian, and also like the Marvel show Moon Knight, which again was pretty cool. Like,
nice.
but she's won a lot of stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool that she was voicing somebody.
I agree, that is awesome.
Yeah, so...
And, like, I agree that it was awesome that they gave her, like, after doing all this, like, sound mixing work and stuff, and it's like, hey, do you want to get on mic and, like, you know, throw down a couple of lines or whatever?
Yeah, so
or, like, cool. Like, that's really cool to, like, do that and whatnot.
Exactly. I love when, like, little Easter eggs like that are in the shows. And I'm sure there's other voices that I didn't get to, you know what I mean? But anyway.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The names that we'll eventually learn of the Master and Apprentice here, Shin Hati and Baylan Skull and Hati. Hati. They're from Norse mythology, and like they were two giant wolves who were born from Fenrir, who was like who was the god of the wolves. And he's like
also like the werewolf in Harry Potter.
Yep. Fenrir's a popular name across like lycanthropy lore because of his connection. And he hooks up with a giantess and has two wolves named Hati and Skull, and they, according to the legend, they will chase the sun and the moon all the way until Ragnarok, when they devour these heavenly bodies. You know.
Every time I hear sun and moon now, like Game of Thrones ruined it for me. Jason Momoa, I just see him being a Dothraki talking to Emilia Clarke, Daenerys Targaryen. You are my sun and my moon,
I was thinking,
or the sun
Pokemon.
and my stars, or whatever. Oh.
I was like, there's no way he's not going to say Pokemon. And he said Game of Thrones.
Anyway,
right? So like,
totally
Skull roughly translates to like the one who mocks, or treachery, which I thought was interesting.
Oh,
it's like,
okay.
You know, that might play into the character development of of Baylan. And he's the character that chases the sun, which in the stories is personified as this goddess who's named Sol. It's popularized name, I feel like, and she rides her chariot across the sky, right? And every day shows up again. And Hati roughly translates to the one who hates, or enemy, you know, and that's again kind of central to this character, because like every time you see her, she's definitely like
yeah, she's mad,
built up,
she's angry, like so again, seeing the orange lightsabers is so weird here. It's weird because we've never seen it before. But like there's such a feeling that these two should just be Sith,
right? And
they're clearly something Sith adjacent. Yeah. I would say.
Yeah, I'd say exactly that. They're something. They're not. They're Ronins. He's a Ronin.
Oh, for sure.
He's a Ronin who clearly like left his order and now is training his own apprentice. But Hati, she's the wolf that chases, is the wolf in legend that chases the moon, Mani, and that's the brother of Sol. So like it's all cool, and just a cool little thing to think about when they were developing these characters and what goes into what we end up seeing on screen. And like you were saying, I do believe that Baylan Skull is kind of the inverse here of Ahsoka Tano, who leans to the light side.
Yeah.
And, you know, has very distinctive lightsabers also.
Yeah, and they're very yin and yang in that sense.
And also, you know, we find out later, this episode isn't just named Master and Apprentice for Shin Hati and Baylan Skull. It's also named for something else that we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
It did seem like when he heard Ahsoka, it was pretty cool. Like, he seemed like, there's a Jedi still around. So he seems like he still has love for at least the people that were involved in
or it seems like he's willing. I think he's more intrigued of like the opportunity of bringing in somebody like Ahsoka onto his mission as well, because that would be a big win. And like I guess, I mean, let's just like get into who the next person. Let's scroll down here to our next bit of notes. Oh yeah, I guess I was about to jump into us just talking about Ahsoka, but
oh,
no.
but yeah, no. Yeah, so it was also you brought up the line when it's "We are no Jedi."
Yeah.
It directly mirrors a line that Ahsoka says to her former master Anakin, who's now Darth Vader in the Rebels season 2. But right before the Battle of Malachor, like she tells Vader, "I am no Jedi."
Yeah.
And it's again, there's a lot of mirrors. Both are Ronin who have taken on apprentices, and they figure out how to navigate without the Jedi Order, which they both kind of saw as corrupt by the time they left.
Yeah. Well, especially with Ahsoka, man.
Right.
Like, she got a real short.
Yeah, she got shafted, and we don't know what happened to Balin, but we can assume that something bad happened to him also.
Well, I mean, at this point, you would assume that he survived Order 66.
Right, and he would have been about Anakin's age.
Yeah, and so, like, so then that's one
of the
things
not younger,
that,
maybe.
And, like, so that's one of the things, like, if you have only been a movie watcher, like, you definitely don't know who Ahsoka is and, like, where she's...
Or TV show watcher,
and where she's been at. Yeah, if you've only been a movie watcher,
right.
But if you've watched it all, like movies and TV show, you definitely know who she is.
Yeah.
But so like it would make sense then that if Balin getting the feeling that like that it was that look that he gave of like he knew something about Ahsoka, whether he knew Anakin because they were both like Jedi together,
which
because we also don't know yet if Balin was just a pure Sith and then he like like that's why he's a Ronin now because he left his like little Sith pack. Like, you know, well, they only say it's the...
Yeah, right now we don't know anything.
It's the rule of two, but yeah.
Yeah, it's all... And the rule of two and also the rhyming. There's always a rhyme to the Star Wars universe. So it makes sense that there would be, poetry in motion kind of here. So anyway, let's get back to the episode where when we catch up with the namesake of the show, Ahsoka, Tano, she's exploring some old ancient ruins on this planet called Arcana, which we find out later. Yeah. But in search, she's clearly searching for something, and it's probably the map that Morgan just brought up.
What we end up finding out is that the reason why Morgan like mentions like the map and stuff like is from that previous thing. But like what we get here is like what we come to find out later is a Night Sister. Yeah,
it's like, a Night Sister temple, like old temple, ancient ruins, and it's cool because when she's on this like flat surface outside, and she kind of like uses her 2 lightsabers to like cut this hole beneath her feet and drops down into the ruins, and there's carved into the wall just 3 Night Sisters you see, and you don't necessarily know right away, but it gets connected to the point. You definitely understand that. Later in the episode, Morgan explains that what it is. But anyway, there's they're each holding like orbs, and at that point, she kind of bends down at this like cylindrical sculpture looking thing and listens to kind of the Force echo. Again, like this is another thing we haven't seen a lot. At least I thought maybe we hadn't seen, but I was thinking maybe Rey did have that moment kind of. Where the Force, like people were talking to her through the Force. I'm like, maybe there was kind of an echo, but like this is the first time outside of a video game where I've seen a character like hold an object and reminisce on what happened
like
to
from
either that object
and like
or
hear stuff and like get this like feeling and everything from it. Now for me, I have played very little of those video games, so I didn't even think of like Force Echo when I saw it. I literally was just like, oh, she's using the Force. Yeah. End of story. Either way, like I didn't have the name Force Echo for it, but like
there's other names for it too.
Yeah. But,
and it's cool if you know, and it's fine if you don't because it's just the Force at the end of the day. But that's my point. I like seeing different abilities with the Force.
Yes.
I finally like seeing like people using the Force. Like you know, a lot of the times we. It kind of takes a back seat to the laser swords. Yeah. And you know what I mean? So I like to see that up front and center.
But as she's like, you know, hears these whispers and stuff. Now they're not like, we can't hear like what they're making out to her or anything, and they're not like giving her instructions, but it's just like giving her a feeling from like where these things come from and stuff. And then she starts basically like turning these manipulating these structures, these 3 pillars that are around, because she kind of starts seeing a
and
pattern
like
a little bit.
Light will go into each one of the orbs, and then a pattern comes, and then this like stone table basically comes out of the floor, and it's like encasing an orb in this like ashy stuff that she kind of pulls off. But that's when she calls. She calls on her comms Hu Yang, which who's voiced by David Tennant, and he came back from the show.
Yeah, which was awesome.
Clone Wars animated show.
Yeah, because he was in Clone Wars, the animated show. Doesn't he show up in Rebels for a little bit?
Yeah. I think I don't know. I think it was just Clone Wars. I'm not sure though. But anyway, the comms are jammed when she could hear a little bit of what he's saying, but it's just. So at that point, I think she kind of realizes that something's up, something's going on. So she jumps up from that chamber that she's in, and immediately encounters this HK droid who's like stunned, but it's like his cape's waving and stuff. You know, he looks like a cat shocked. You know what I mean? And then he immediately he's like he demands the map from her, and he's like. She's like, what? No,
I'm not giving you
a bunch of them start popping up around her, which is like 4 pop up around her, and as she begins getting cornered, she uses the same move. She goes down into that hole and uses her lightsabers to cut holes beneath the droids. She drops 2 of them, and then comes back up to fight the remaining 2. Yeah,
and that's
great. She takes out one and then decapitates the other, who still has his life force, because the 2 that drop down, they get the initiate self-destruct protocol from the decapitated head, and they all of a sudden you hear it beeping, and she's like, I gotta get out of here.
Remember everybody at home, HK droids are not zombies. Removing the head does not kill them. You gotta destroy that brain and that whole thing totally. You gotta have total destruction of it. You know, in this case, like a bomb probably better than a lightsaber.
Exactly, and these are like thermal detonators that they're about to unleash, and she's running for her life, so you could tell she knows what's about to happen. And I don't know if the ground was covered in gas, but like when these things finally go off, when she's running, there's a big explosion. Like I don't know if the area was like some kind of incendiary thing, but it was like. When it blows up, But she's calling Hu Yang, and he's like, I'm about to land. I'm right in front of you. Don't worry about it. And she's like, don't land. Keep going.
Don't land.
She's like, open the ramp, basically.
Yeah.
Open the ramp, and I'll get on. Don't worry about it.
And I'll get on. One of the funniest things, though, for me about David Tennant coming back to this is, like, something that I didn't know previously, because I just started watching it, is the 2012 animated TMNT series. He also plays the voice of Fugitoid, who is also another droid in that. And I just, like, it was so funny because, like, we were watching Ahsoka, and then my daughter and I started watching that TMNT series, and, like, both of them showed up at like the same time, like days within each other. Like, we had just watched the TMNT intro of them, and I was like, "Is that David Tennant?"
Yeah, because I feel like if you didn't know, you couldn't really hear it.
Yeah.
But the droid is funny, like throughout the whole time, and like when she finally gets back on the ship and the explosion goes behind her and stuff, they're kind of have this like banter that goes back and forth between them, and it's just like awesome. It's just really funny that like he's this old Jedi droid,
trainer droid, basically.
Yes, exactly, and he and she's kind of like went away from the Jedi Order, so they kind of are gonna always be at odds, but they love each other for what it is, and it was cool because in this moment, Home One calls and uses her call sign from Rebels, which was Fulcrum.
Yeah,
and they ask her for her assistance.
Yeah, because they were just attacked, and Morgan Elizabeth is gone and everything, and like, oh man. Yeah.
So this is like we said, Tennant plays Hu Yang, and he showed up in Clone Wars Season 5, Episode 7. I didn't think it was so late, but I looked it up.
Yeah.
That's when it was, and oddly enough, played Fugitoid.
Yeah.
In another. Yeah, that's crazy because like I did not know that. I didn't think he played another droid, so that's pretty cool to see. And he's about Hu Yang though. He's about 25,000 years old, so I think he knows a thing or two when it comes to like making lightsabers and stuff. So it's pretty cool. and he's seen Yoda. He's seen all these
all these
Jedi come and go.
Yeah.
And like we keep bringing up these hunter killer droids, and they're basically the HK droids are hunter killers. They're exactly
they're assassin droids.
They're from the old Knights of the Republic, Knights of the Old Republic video game, and they've been in other things too. But yeah, it was very cool seeing them. But they definitely to me looked video gamey.
Yeah.
But that's probably because I played the video games, but like. They looked good when I'm on my second rewatch. They look good.
Yeah.
And Fulcrum generally is something that like plays an essential role, and I like that name for her because like I think she does play an essential role in this whole Star Wars saga that like is gonna be addressed sooner or later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that needs to be there for everything else to work basically, and she's basically exactly that. I feel like. Yeah. So the next,
we meet Ahsoka and Huyang. They roll up to Hera, my girl, played by my girl Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I love her.
Oh, yeah.
She's so great.
And they do seem happy to see each other, but like a little bit reserved. You know what I mean? Because of the situation that they're in.
Yeah, there is some like distance there and everything. Between them, but there's some genuine like happiness of like, oh man, this is awesome to see you and everything like that. And then they like Ahsoka shares the hologram of like Shin with them, right?
Yeah,
of, like Shin and Balin.
Hera
does
shows Ahsoka a hologram of Balin and Shin, wondering if she maybe knows who they are because they're holding lightsabers and they're using basically tricks like Ahsoka uses.
Yeah,
and so maybe you know these guys, but she doesn't. She actually like notes that their lightsabers are a little off, and she asks Huyang at that point to kind of like. Look into it.
Yeah,
run diagnostics on their lightsabers so we can see exactly
know if you
who
find
they are.
Something. Yeah.
Ahsoka just figures they're basically like hired mercenaries for Morgan Elsbeth, considering they let her out.
Yeah.
And at that point, Ahsoka's like, "Check out what I got."
Yeah,
I got
probably
this
for this.
And Hera has a hard time believing Grand Admiral Thrawn is actually even alive still, including Ezra. Like she doesn't like have much faith that they're alive, but. I guess she just at a point is willing to take Ahsoka's word for it.
Yeah.
And Huyang finishes up a scan, and he doesn't really find anything in his databases to conclude anything.
So he concludes that like they were made like pretty recently.
Pretty recently they had
because they're outside of like the Jedi databases from like Order 66 and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just. So Huyang can't find really anything on it, and then Hera's just like, we need to figure out this orb, and Ahsoka's like, well, duh, I know this. I know that we need to do this.
Yeah, it's not like.
And then Hera's like, no, but we need to figure out,
and we need
to figure out the orb.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka's like, I know, and Hera's like, no, you don't know. Yeah. You're not picking up what I'm putting down here. You need to do the thing.
You need to go talk to somebody who you've been ignoring.
You need to go do the thing.
You need to do it for Ezra. And that's when Ahsoka's like, God,
and
I'm gonna go
like,
do it.
What?
I'm gonna go meet who you want me to meet. And like, it's cool. It's really a fun reunion to see them, these two, but at the same time, it's like it's a bad situation that they're getting into, but. Anyway, so this was cool because when Ahsoka gives her landing code to Home One, it's T61974. 1974 was also Dave Filoni's birth year, so that was a pretty cool little Easter egg there. And then compared to me, you're more of a Hera fan of that character, and I don't know, what did you think of seeing the green Mary Elizabeth Winstead?
I loved it. I thought it looked great. We off mic before we started recording, we're talking about like context and stuff of like characters and everything, like Ahsoka Ahsoka Rosario. She's got some like different colored contacts in there, and
for me, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's contacts kind of a little bit were a little uncanny valley. They were like a little. I feel like I paid attention to her blue eyes too much, but that's a little
Yeah,
it's a little.
It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, it was stellar.
It didn't bother me.
It was an awesome. Exactly.
Yeah.
If it's not everyone, then I don't care. And they, to be honest, they stayed true to the original character, which and Rebels by putting those contacts in. So I get it. But it's just to me, it's like it's one of those things that to me it doesn't matter that what color of her eyes are. Like she would have looked great.
Yeah, like you
brown,
know,
with brown eyes.
Like at this point for all intents and purposes, it's like the Harry Potter thing. He didn't have the green eye. Like Daniel Radcliffe doesn't have green eyes like Lily Potter did in the book, or like Harry did in the book. He's got blue eyes. So it's like again, something like eye color literally wouldn't have bothered me. So like for me, it was nice that they did it. Mm-hmm. I didn't find that as
disturbing.
As like a distraction. Definitely not disturbing.
Yeah,
but
like, I can't look away. But anyway, so like we cut to a new scene now, and we see this beautiful cityscape. It's all white and like crystal city. It looks like it's on Lothal, which is Ezra's home planet, and there's like this jubilee going on in Lothal's capital city, and there's a guy giving a speech, and it's Governor Ryder Zadi, who's played by Clancy Brown.
Love Clancy Brown.
And yeah, it was pretty cool.
Love when Clancy Brown shows up.
Yeah, and he reprised the role from Clone Wars
that's
Rebels.
That's awesome because like, first off, just in the animation world as a voice actor, he's like unmatched in some of the greatest performances out there. Like, you know, if you're gonna put like Mark Hamill and like, you know, Kevin Conroy and like Clancy Brown, like those got to be like three of the names.
Yeah, and I love seeing him, and he looks like the character that he was based on, so it just fits right in. And he's giving a speech, and he's like unveiling this monument, which is so cool because it's the monument that Sabine painted of the Ghost Crew, and it's awesome, especially awesome because it looks
at the end of Rebels,
and it especially looks cool because it looks like the animated characters,
instead of being like a painting of the live action looking people. It is like
if those were stories that based on what she was saying. Anyway, they're unveiling this monument, and she's in Governor Azadi basically is like, so here's Commander Wren to give you a little speech about her monument, and she does not come. She's playing hooky.
Crickets.
Yeah,
Crickets?
She's playing hooky. So kind of Governor Azadi gives it off to Senator Jai Kell, who also was in Rebels, and he played Ezra's friend in the Imperial Academy on Lothal. Yeah. But he's played in this by a different actor, Vinnie Thomas, and he fills in basically for Sabine at this moment. Yeah. To speak for her. Annoyed though, Governor Azadi like kind of just like finally loses his temper and dispatches the security team basically to go get Sabine. And next, this is when we hear some like rock music that's a little weird to hear in Star Wars, to be honest, but it was pretty cool because it's like clearly an alien language or something. Yeah. Again, I remember this type of music showing up in a scene from the video game Fallen Order when Cal's about to go into this gladiator match. There's this big like this rumbling sound and like a kind of a rock song being played in the background. It kind of reminded me of that. But she's riding on a speeder bike, flying through this track. She's got on her maroon color with the yellow, purple, and orange aesthetic, and she's got this helmet on that's got Lothal cats painted on it. Like she's just she's back to her. This is the character I know. Like this is her, and her purple hair's flowing out through the helmet, and
that was kind of crazy to see.
Right. And she's speeding down this track, and these two capital city planes come up and try to intercept her.
Police.
They're security basically, I think. And Sabine like decides to play a game of chicken with them. She clearly has a relationship with them. There is no like, it's not like she's actually running away from them. Yeah. But she like plays a game of chicken with them, and the one like parks on the track, so she has to like slide underneath it. She turns off the engine real quick, kind of, and slides underneath it.
It starts skidding truly across the ground, no longer like floating above air like on her speeder that she normally was. and like slides underneath this plane.
The Akira slide.
Yeah.
She does the Akira slide. Anyway, so Sabine, she finally arrives home after that. She gets home, like, and you see her cat with the like creepy little legs, the Lothal cat. But it was, I liked the way that looked.
Yeah.
And her floor to ceiling covered in her type of graffiti. Looking
all
around,
her artwork and
all
stuff.
and then stormtrooper helmets, and then she kind of is alone, and she decides to play a holotape of the last recording Ezra made, and it's like right before he disappeared, and he kind of tells her to like she needs it's up to her now, basically, in this tape, and clearly she's not doing much and probably feels guilty about it.
Yeah, and the Force will be with you.
And like this is the moment, I love this moment because in Rebels she was like the best. She's my favorite character because she was a Mandalorian. She wielded a Darksaber. That was the first time we saw that. And her parents were like Mandalorian royalty. She's a rebel. Like, and most importantly to me, she was an artist. Like she had so much depth, and for a character that was supposed to just be like this warrior. From this warrior culture, she was just a rebel from the beginning. Just being an artist for me was like, to be honest, Mandalorians took art serious. So like she was, but they didn't like her art style at all. And she was just resistant to that, and just decided to do what she did. And again, seeing her live action was pretty sweet, meta, because it did look like the animated characters more than the live action characters, which I thought was cool. And again, you get to see Kanan and like Zeb. And a note about Sabine's art: she was the inspiration for the symbol of the Alliance to restore the Republic, which is like the main logo for the Rebel Alliance. Yeah, basically. And again, we talked about this. Clancy Brown reprised his role from Rebels, and he was governor, and then he was a rebel fighter, and now he's governor again. Then we had Senator Jaikel, who was originally voiced on Rebels by Dante Bosco, who played Rufio in the classic 1991 movie Hook, starring Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman. And I know we have to say that because maybe younger people are listening. But yeah,
love Hook.
He was great in that show. Yeah, exactly.
Spielberg, Williams,
and
awesome.
Rufio.
Yeah.
And the live action actor was great though. He's this TikTok comedian, but he's also like a writer and actor, and he was great. Vinny Thomas.
Yeah.
He had a little like spark to him. I hope we see him again. Anyway.
Now we get to Arcana. We got Lady Morgan. We've got Shin Hati surveying the ruins left behind of Ahsoka and the HK droids and everything like that. Lady Morgan is she's just staring around the wreckage, and like Shin asks her like, where are we, like what is this place? And Lady Morgan replies that it is a place of her ancestors and her like descendants and stuff. It is the Night Sisters. It's a temple of the Night Sisters.
Yep, exactly.
Is what she says. And like if you've been watching, if you're up to date on everything animated and stuff like Rebels, Clone Wars, then it's the Night Sisters of Death. And
so this is basically confirmation that Morgan Elsbeth is a Night Sister, and that's so cool. And this is when Shin's like, "You're a witch." Like it's clearly like she doesn't. She's a little wary of her, and then Morgan's like a survivor. I'm because there's not a lot of them left because they were killed off. But
right, I mean,
Balin and this like masked Inquisitor walk up too, who ends up being this character named Marak. And Balin basically says like, the map's not here. And this is when Morgan's like, Ahsoka has it. He's like, he's not sure. He's like, maybe it's destroyed, but she's like, no, Ahsoka has it. And she's like, tell your apprentice to go to Lothal.
Tell me this little hottie over here to get out of here. Go get to Lothal.
He explains to her basically, go to Lothal because Ahsoka's apprentice, who he says that at that moment, which is like, oh, okay. Ahsoka's former apprentice, Sabine Wren, staying there, and she'll potentially be a way in to get the map. And that's exactly what ends up happening. But the Night Sisters of Dathomir, let's talk about them because they're really an interesting addition to the Star Wars universe, considering they like tap into the Force in a different way, which is like they use it like a dark magic, but I don't like using the word dark because I don't necessarily consider them Darksiders, even though they tend to go with the dark side, because during the Clone Wars they were betrayed by the Separatists and led by Sidious, and General Grievous, like in his droid army, just like wiped them out, basically genocided the Night Sisters. But it's cool because they have this deep connection, this deep history, that this like lore that is being added into the live action world.
Yeah, and it was great seeing them. Yeah. It was great seeing them being.
And they were also heavily in the games if you played the games.
Yeah.
Which, Kale has to fight them throughout it, and then one of them becomes friends with them. Anyway, so we're back on Lothal, and Sabine is having like night terrors. It seems like dreaming Ezra's like final message here. And where he's like, it's all up to you now, and remember, and the Force will be with you always, he's saying to her. And she wakes up to this like beeping sound, and she goes outside, and Ahsoka's ship's flying overhead, which is another scene that's like directly from Rebels. They just like repurposed it for live action.
Yeah. And
it was really cool to see again. Because she's in this like old comms tower, so like she's like got this cool like balcony outside. Sabine basically goes to the landing spot where Ahsoka and Huyang are greeted by like the governor Azadi. As Sabine walks up, Azadi gives her some crap about not being at the coronation or whatever the memorial service for Ezra and stuff. The reunion is a little shaky, a little weird, filled with tension.
Definitely.
Yeah. Finally, Ahsoka cuts to the chase and like tells Sabine like by showing her the orb like we can maybe find Ezra with this thing.
Yeah.
And that kind of convinces Sabine to, okay, I'll hear you out.
All right, I'll listen to what you got to say.
And that's when like they go to Sabine, it's to Ahsoka's T6 ship, and they're walking around, and Sabine's kind of reminiscing because that's where she trained. That's where she was with Ahsoka on that ship a lot, and even has a bunk there with like doodles on the wall of hers. Right, and Ahsoka asks Sabine basically to use her artistic eye, because her
mind works differently.
Her mind works a little differently than everybody else, so she's able to look at things differently and to try to figure out this map. And they use this time also to catch up with each other and get into it a bit, but the tension definitely is clear in this moment. Yeah, like they're not being friendly with each other. They're just like on a mission for different reasons. Even it feels like Sabine here wants to save Ezra. Ahsoka wants to take out Thrawn. And Ahsoka here clearly tells Sabine, "Do not take the map. This is not yours to take.
Do not do that. Do not take this." And then Huyang's like, "Hey, I've got a hit on like one of the lightsabers from the two mysterious Jedi people." Or whatever. So come over here into this other room where we can close the door and totally let Sabine get out of here with
literally perfect timing for Sabine to dip. So he's like, one mercenary that basically I've seen this design before. This is definitely a design I've seen, and it was from Baylan Skoll. So they know now that Baylan Skoll has an apprentice, and they've created new lightsabers based on his old designs, based on the teachings of Huyang, which is again pretty cool, because there's gonna hopefully be a meeting between those two in the future, and there could maybe be some kind of a conversation about what he used to be like. And of course, like you said, Sabine dips. She leaves. She gets on her speeder bike and just decides it's hers now. She just basically, I think, giving her some charity is going home to like be in her own space to think about it, which I can understand. Just being in your own space, because like think just about
being in Ahsoka's ship there, like it just felt awkward for everybody. Them in that situation, and us as the viewers, like it
but
felt
also
really awkward.
Very like selfish of her to take it. She takes it. She does though figure it out a little bit. She's searching it out. But anyway, she's at home, and she does try to figure out that key.
On her way home though, we get that recon.
We do.
We get the recon droid that finds her and like follows her, and then goes back to Shin Hati. And so then but Sabine then gets home, cracks the map open a little bit after a little back and forth and everything, and Ahsoka is just being like, is just kind of being a wet rag. Like, why would Sabine do this?
Yeah, to Hera, like over on a holotape, they're talking over
overcomes
and she's basically like, she's so stubborn, she's bullish, she's never. But like in this moment, Hera's kind of reminding Ahsoka that aren't you kind of like that too? Like, what are you talking about?
Kind of sounds like you, man.
It sounds like you and your master probably had similar reactions, and Ahsoka kind of. Which again, if you watch Clone Wars, and she was definitely stubborn and bullish.
Her nickname's Snips.
Snips, right? She was always coming back with which what if you've only seen the show, you don't know, because her character's clearly a little traumatized in this point of the story. But we go back to Sabine's place, and she's racking her brain, and she just she comes up with an answer on how to
read the whole thing.
Read the map. So she twists it into place.
Yeah.
And and a hologram comes out of like the galaxy basically, and she glimpses at the star map, and she is then goes out on that balcony I was talking about and gets attacked by some more HK droids. These hunter killer droids are everywhere. Yeah, and they're
who are producing these droids?
Yes, exactly. And these are accompanied by Shin.
Yeah,
who she runs into when she, after kind of rummaging through, after taking one of the HK droids out, she rummages through her junk basically, and gets Ezra's old lightsaber out and whips it out and is ready to fight Shin.
Yeah,
who is outside holding the map now because one of the HK droids did get it.
Yeah,
and during all that, they kind of destroy all of Sabine's notes and stuff like that.
Her computers and her drives where everything would have been saved on, or like you would hope everything would have been saved on. But it didn't matter because it's all destroyed.
Yeah.
So
and this is when so the battle ensues. She's got the green lightsaber out, and Shin kind of looks at her. That was so cool
when she runs back and like throws her Mandalorian stuff out, and it's like, I'm getting my lightsaber.
I do want my lightsaber. Yeah. And she's like, my toy. And Shin basically hands her the map over to the droid and confidently walks up to
and is like,
Sabine,
I am going to do
I'm gonna like bully you right now. And from the beginning of the fight though, it's like clearly Sabine's out of practice. She's a little off
Sabine
foot.
is just bad.
She's just bad, straight up bad. And people will maybe say this is a bad lightsaber battle, and I don't think that's the case if you take into consideration that she's supposed to be bad, and Shin's just kind of rifling through her right now and just like handing her ass basically. And at this point, it's you see some lights coming, so Shin takes a move and stabs Sabine. Yeah, she straight stabs her, and this is when the lights come and you hear running, and it's probably Ahsoka coming to grab her.
Yeah.
So yeah, what did you think about that ending there?
That ending was wild.
Luckily the episode 1 and 2 came out at the same time, so you didn't have to wait a week.
Yeah, that was sweet. That's always sweet.
But also we knew
when they dropped 2 episodes.
It's one of those things that like because the story know that she survives this, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I kind of didn't understand it. I don't know if it drove the story forward or anything. I couldn't figure it out.
So yeah, that was a weird take. Of like, because it was like they just stab her. They didn't like.
Isn't that how Qui-Gon Jinn died?
No, he got like. I mean,
he got stabbed in the stomach.
Through the center. I guess. I mean, I guess that's
like pretty much.
That's semantics at this point.
But like all I'm saying is, clearly Ahsoka's there to help her and get help right away, and they do have cybernetics and stuff, and maybe Qui-Gon Jinn. It was in the middle of a war. I wonder
if he gets hit actually more so in the chest, and he gets his heart for Qui-Gon. Beside the point, I'm thinking too much about stomach,
but anyway, don't think too much about it. Anyway, there's that scene with that I'm glad you brought back up with the recon droid, because it did remind me of like the scene in the Phantom Menace with Darth Maul
and his recon droid
when he's looking for
stuff,
Queen Amidala. And it was really cool to see that. And it's
cool
Dave
because Dave Filoni, man, he will make you. He is going to beat you over the head with his love of the prequel trilogy, and anyone who hates it, he'll be like, "Oh, come on over to Uncle Dave's, and let's take a seat. Let's watch some Clone Wars and some Rebels, and everything you thought will be.
Yeah, he expected you to watch it. He did not.
Yeah.
He did not spoon feed this to you. Yes, these first 2 episodes were a little slower, like we'll get into, but they're not. They had to be because of that exact thing.
But I think they do enough in each. They do enough in this episode and in the second episode as well to give us the introductions of these characters, even if we haven't watched it. Like to get an idea of who they are, so that we can actually like enjoy the series or kind of dive in. Because you're right, like this show does come with a lot of baggage.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because it, like, as opposed to previous shows where it's like, it's just like, oh, okay, you just watch like the previous season or something, or you watch the previous movie or whatever, and then you're good to go. But this, it's like you've got 2 animated series that like that matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Like before this, then you've also got spots inside of The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett where she shows up, and like
they expected you to watch a whole
like. So, like, at least now for Ahsoka, I think at a minimum of walking into Ahsoka, you had to have seen The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett's like appearance. Like I feel like that was like essential watching for you to at least start this show.
Yeah, no, Morgan Elsbeth is.
To even just get your foot dipped into.
But even
that
was cool because Morgan Elsbeth was definitely more concrete in this episode, being a Night Sister and all that.
Yeah.
She was more like, who is that? Who she was just like some warlord basically.
Well,
and she technically
really
is.
Seemed
she
like,
technically still is a warlord, but like
you're right.
She could be 2 things at once.
But she really just seemed like a samurai warrior, really, if we're being honest. It's like what she kind of seemed like in that. Well, because then
she's still that,
because you had the whole hidden fortress, like homage to
Seven Samurai?
No, Kurosawa.
Oh, Kurosawa,
the filmmaker, who did Seven Samurai and Hidden Fortress and all of that stuff. Yes, but that whole background, like when Morgan Lisbeth has her like Beskar like spear, and she's almost like kind of like, I don't know if she has it like to the side like that, or if it's almost like she's holding it like Donatello holds his bow staff. But that whole like building in the back is like almost like a whoop from that insert here.
Which, if you know, George Lucas did the same thing.
Well, exactly. That's because like all of that stuff like meant so much to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you know, like first episode of Ahsoka was pretty cool. It'll be interesting to see what people, you know, who have like the long history of like watching it all and kind of being really in depth into it, think about it, and how it'll play with people who didn't. It'll be really
let
interesting.
us know in the comments, please.
We'll start letting you know in the next episodes about what what Mr. Crowley thought, because like he's a guy who actually hasn't watched Rebels or Clone Wars.
Yeah, so at this point in the show, he's kind of like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Actually, he was
and
like
understandable, like
literally.
But then for me, who's watched all that stuff, I was like, Gee!
Yeah, and he was, you know what? He was like, it wasn't bad. I'd call it mid, and I was like,
right.
How dare you?
Yeah, but fair. No, it's fair.
But it's fair. Yeah.
It's very lore heavy, and it's very like nerdy. It's for nerds basically. But I think by the end of the series, you realize it's more of an overarching story that again will kind of matter. Yeah.
It's exciting, man. I'm excited for the rest of this stuff. We are done here for commentary track for Ahsoka, episode 1.
Yep.
Master and Apprentice. I am JimmE with the Triple C Collective.
I'm Collin.
And we want to thank you all for joining us. Please like and subscribe, and please stay safe out there. Peace.